Hey indies, welcome back to my channel. So today I am coming at you with a different style video. This is under my segment of the business side of fashion. I have wanted to do this video for some time now, but I just needed a few weeks to just really collect my thoughts and see what it is. The main things that I wanted to talk about in this specific video, and if you see the title, honey, then you know what it really is. This is about the do's and don'ts during prom season. Now, I did write down some of the key points that I am going to try to stick to. This is in no particular order, you guys, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get into the video. Make sure you guys like, comment, and hit the subscribe button if you want to see more for us. If I miss anything in this particular video, make sure you leave a comment and add to this long list of do's and don'ts for prom season. Now let's get into it. Alright, you guys, so I'm going to go ahead and get into my bullet point list. Again, this is not in any particular order. I am in my home studio office right now. I am not at my actual studio, and this is a holiday today, Memorial Day, but I really wanted to get this video done. So if the scenery is a little different from my sewing videos and things of that nature, don't charge it to my heart. First things first, I have my notes right here, so if you see me looking down, I am just looking at my bullet points on my notes. Now, if you are not familiar with prom season, especially prom season in the United States, prom season is this big, huge, night that teenagers in high school prepare for. But now, prom season is definitely not what it used to be when I was in prom. Honey, these people go all out. I'm talking about renting cars, making all kind of backdrops. They're renting horses and carriages. They're spending thousands of dollars on clothing, hair, makeup, you name it. That is prom season here in the US. Now, for a designer like me, that's money making season. That's my tax season. That's when I'm able to get it in. I can make a couple stacks, thousands of stacks during this season. However, the difference between prom season back then and prom season now is when we were going to prom, our parents would just take us to Macy's or JCPenney's or something like that. Now, these girls are literally getting custom gowns made, and the gowns are ranging from $600 all the way up until, $2,000, $3,000, some even far as $4,000 and $5,000 that I have seen this year. So when I tell you people really spend a lot of money on prom season, please don't doubt it, because it's definitely happening here. However, this video was prompted because I am in a couple sewing groups and I have a group of my own, and we often discuss what did you learn this season, what didn't you learn this season, what could you have done better. And so what I did based off of my own season and what others discuss, or what we discuss amongst each other, is I just came up with a list of things that you need to know if you want to get into this money-making business, okay? So the first things first is going to be sample gowns. 100% to eliminate custom, it would be in your best interest to make sample gowns. Sample gowns can be a range, from 2 to whatever your biggest size is that you make as a custom designer, but it cuts back on custom requests. And I think where a lot of designers find it hard and run into issues is they're dealing with more custom orders that are requested looks from the girls. They've made this concoction of designs that they want you to do, and you have to try to deliver, and that's the hardest part about what it is that we do. So if you really want to eliminate just the whole custom process, my advice to you would be to make sample gowns, and just try to be trendy with your sample gowns. I would stick to popular sizes. I would make, most highly requested things within the range of custom gowns: feathers, roses, diamonds, or, you know, studs, appliques, all of the smoke and mirrors. Basically, that's what I would stick to if I would be making sample gowns. Okay, so the second thing is going to be a big don't: underestimating the time of work it is going to take you to complete a gown. I have seen this time and time again in several groups. Why are we as designers underestimating the time that it takes for us to complete a garment? And what happens when you underestimate the time that it takes to complete the garment, you end up running into issues where you have to move your fitting back, you have to rearrange or cancel the fitting, you have to tell the customer, can you come a few days later, or can you come, you know, next week? And it creates problems. The moment that you underestimate the time that it's going to take you to make something, you are instantly going to lose trust, or you could potentially lose trust in your clients, because you said that the gown would be ready this day, but because you waited to the last minute, now this person has to, you know, reschedule things and try to accommodate what we didn't do well as designers, which is manage our time. So that's going to be a huge don't underestimate the time that it takes to complete a gown. Like for me, when I do gowns, I can pretty much knock out 1 or 2 gowns, and I mean in full completion, in a day. However, the gown is prepped the night before, so this is not, you know, the cutting process and everything in one day, but it is, you know, prepping a gown and getting it to a certain point, and then when I come in the next day, I'm just straight sewing on the gowns that need to be done. But what I always do is I start on my gowns a month ahead. So just a little advice: what I do is, if the prom is in March, they're getting their dress in February. If the prom is in April, they're getting their dress in March. If the prom is in May, they're getting their dress in April. And that right there has worked really well for me. You should try it. It does not matter how fast you are. If you want to keep business rolling, if you want to keep the wheels turning, you have to be ahead of the curve. And a lot of designers procrastinate, really procrastinate. You guys gotta stop procrastination, because it is literally the bloodline, or it is literally the death of a lot of independent and inspiring designers. You procrastinate, you end up not getting the dress done on time, and then you have a whole lot of people telling you that you're a scammer. Nobody wants to hear that. So that's going to be my number 2, underestimating the time that it takes to get things done. Number 3, stop overthinking. Now, overthinking, what I mean by that is overthinking the designs that you take on. Now, don't get me wrong. If you do not have the credentials, or don't get mad, you guys, if you don't have the credentials or the skills to do particular work, it is not in your best interest to take these type of gowns on when you are taking $800 or $1,000 of somebody's money, or anybody's money for that point. I just gotta tell you guys, that is a big no-no for me. If I cannot do the work, or I don't have experience in doing the work, I don't care how experienced I am. Certain things, if I am not comfortable delivering, you know, what needs to be done to my client, I will not take on the work. And I find that that is a common mistake made in the design community, especially the custom community. You know, people want to be a part of prom season so bad, and so what they end up doing is taking on work that they do not have the skills to complete. I would not advise doing that. I think that during the down season after prom and things of that nature, you should be working and building your skill to be able to take on the work that's required during prom season. You have to forever be a student, and that's just, I'm gonna elaborate more on that closer to the end. My next point, you have to eliminate phone calls and, you know, all this communication that is not able to be documented. It is not in your best interest. It is not in your best interest to have conversations with clients that cannot be documented, and you cannot illegally record people. So you have to have a process in place that your clients or potential clients will be able to go into when you are doing prom season. And you need to be able to communicate with them. Where do they sign up? How is the communication going to be? Is it going to be strictly email? Is it going to be text? And I want to be clear, I do not advise text. I don't even give my phone number out to people. We communicate strictly via email. And the reason why we do this is because I need to have documentation for my business, and they need to have documentation showing their purchase. And that is how you keep yourself safe. And, you know, when things come up where people are unsatisfied and they're unhappy, you'll have the documentation to say, this is what we discussed and this is exactly what I did. So it's, if you don't have the documentation, it's he said, she said, and it's just that simple. So I would advise to definitely stop. I don't even do conversations via messenger anymore. When I first started, I was doing that, but I realized that the lines get crossed very easily because sometimes clients have a tendency to think that you are their friend, and I'm not your friend. So I don't want you to mistake how I am operating as a business owner, you know, as a friendship. This is not a friendship. This is a business transaction. I have an obligation to provide you with the services requested, and it should not go any further than that. So your clients are not your friends. We hype them up. I love making my clients feel like they are the best thing to walk on into my shop, in my office, but it stops there. After that transaction is done and they sign a release form, honey, we have no more communication unless you want to send me your pictures. That's about it. Which goes into my next thing. Release forms and contracts. Now, I'm going to slowly elaborate on this, but I actually have a full video coming under the business side of fashion about release forms and contracts. A lot of designers are neglecting to have their customers to sign release forms. I don't know what that is, or sign contracts for that matter. Every single person that walks into your studio and is requesting a custom item should be filling out a contract and should be signing a release form when they pick up their garment. And in that release form, you're going to simply state that they inspected their garment, they are fully satisfied, they sign on the dotted line, they take their garment. That is how you protect yourself from potentially being sued. This is how you can control the narrative if someone decides to bash you, because a client cannot say, I was not satisfied, but yet I signed a release form saying that I was fully satisfied with my garment and I took it out the door. Once that garment is released to them, you are no longer responsible for what happens to it. If a seam rips, if they get a hole, if they get a tear, you're not responsible anymore, because before they left out, that zipper zipped, there were no holes, there were no tears, any of that. So I just want to let you guys know, if you do not have contracts and release forms in place, please get them in place. We cannot continue to do business like this. This is setting yourself up for failure. You never know who will be unsatisfied. Literally, the person that told you, oh my God, I absolutely love my dress, will be the same person to turn around and write a post on Facebook about how dissatisfied they were when they got home because they recognized that a stone was not in the right place. They cannot keep that same argument if you have the documentation stating that One, they signed a contract, and two, they signed a release form when they picked up their garment. Honey, you're safe. Okay? Let's get into the next one. Dresses should not be released unless paid in full. I'm going to say that one again. Dresses should not be released unless paid in full. Now, I don't really understand why someone would release a garment, but I do understand that sometimes clients give you very sob stories about what's going on. You know, my dog died. You know, they have a long list of things that could potentially happen. And you are at risk when you release a garment without full payment, waiting to be compensated later. I personally do not do that. I would never advise someone to do that, and I think that you are doing yourself a disservice when you do decide to do things like that. They have to respect your policies and procedures as business owners. Would we be able to go into a Gucci store and tell them we're going to pay them back later? No. It doesn't happen like that unless you got a credit card on file, and I still don't even think it happens that way. There's some type of commitment that has to be made, and unfortunately, when you're a smaller independent designer, you do not have a lot of room for mistakes. You do not have a lot of room for mishaps, and you do not have a lot of room to lose money. Okay, so do not release dresses unless they are paid in full, or you will be disappointed. And I'm just going to say that. All right. So one new thing that I did today, I did for the last 2 years. I did not do it my very first year doing prom season, but I did it my last 2 years. My first prom season, it was just strictly trial and error. But because I am a businesswoman, I quickly caught on and made the necessary adjustments. All right, you guys, so my next do and or suggestion for prom season is going to be payment arrangements, automatic payments, and the importance of setting hard dates. Now, my very first prom season, it was just strictly trial and error, to be honest. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just really trying to figure it out, but I caught on very quickly, and by the next prom season that I participated in, honey, she was ready to go. Okay, so my advice would be I would advise people to have payment arrangements if you can, and if you decide to go that route, you can set hard dates and put some type of system in place to automate your clients' payments, meaning your clients have no choice but to put a card on file in order to even have a payment arrangement. That's one. Or you can just do payments in full. Now, for me personally, if they order at least 2 months in advance, I give them payment arrangements. If they are last minute, they have to pay up full. Absolutely no exceptions. And with those payment arrangements, there are very hard dates. I give them 30 days from their payment, from their deposit date to put down, to pay their balance off in full. Okay? 30 days from their payment date, their deposit date, 30 days from their deposit date to make the payment in full. And the reason why I do this is because if you allow someone whatever time that they want to make the payments on their dress, they're never going to pay you when you need to be paid, and you have to set hard dates, because again, you got to remember, we are small business owners. If you are full-time like I am, we have bills to pay. I have overhead. I have a shop. I have an apartment. I have multiple things that I have to pay for, and I can't wait for, well, I'm gonna pay you when I feel like paying you. No, you have to pay me 30 days. This is also stated in my contract. It's also known that you will not pick up your dress until the dress is paid in full. If you set a payment arrangement, you have now committed to a specific date. If you miss that commitment, you will be assessed a $50 late fee immediately, no exceptions. These rules are in place for a reason, and if you want to be successful next prom season, you have to implement these regardless of how it makes your customers feel. If they want to support you, and if they want to be, want you to be their designer, etc., they're going to do what's necessary to book you. And my clients know exactly how I operate. They actually tell other people before they try to book me, so they're very familiar with my process and how it works. I also offer a line of credit through Square for my clients. So it's 3 different ways you can pay. You can do a credit application and go that route. You can do pay in full, go that route, or you can do a payment arrangement. And again, you only have 4 weeks from the deposit date to pay the dress off in full. You do not get payment arrangements when you order last minute, and last minute for me would be a month before your prom. Super last minute, you will be assessed a last minute fee, and that will be an additional $150 on top of whatever I was going to charge you. So all these fees are in place for a reason, and people have to understand how it is that we operate as business owners. So you guys, don't be afraid to put these policies and procedures in place, because they are needed for a reason. People are either going to respect what you bring to the table or they're not. But this is to protect you and me. This is to protect us as designers. So it's very important. And I know I've seen a few people express that, when they charge certain things, or they price certain things, people tend not to work with them. Sweetie, let me just tell you in advance, those are not your customers. Anybody who wants your service or your business is going to abide by the rules that you have. Period. It doesn't matter who it is. If they want to work with you, if they want what you're offering, they're going to abide by your rules. If they do not, those are not your customers, and you got to get out of that. You got to get out of letting your customers control the narrative, letting them control letting them control how you run your business. Because what ends up happening is, as brands and designers, we end up getting the short end of the stick when we operate our businesses that way. So I would suggest completely doing the opposite, and I will elaborate more on that if you guys want more just information about that when I go into my contract and release form video. I'll definitely elaborate just some of the ways that I am running my business. This is my way. This is not everybody's way. And honestly, it changes. Each year something happens that makes me enforce a new policy or enforce a new procedure. And that's the business for you, okay? All right, so my next do is going to be so important, you guys. Time management and self-care. I have to reiterate this again. Time management and self-care. The reason why this is a huge do for me is because what I have noticed is that a lot of designers are overbooking themselves for the sake of the dollar. By any means, get your coin, sis. I feel you in all of those things. However, what happens when you decide to overbook yourself is that the quality of your work will get less and less and less of quality. We have to stop overbooking ourselves, and we have to practice more self-care when it comes to taking breaks, eating properly, exercising properly, taking off days. Because I know for me, I do have my moments where I am working, consistently 7 days straight, and it can be wear and tear on your body. And I think eventually your body just begins to let you know that I'm tired and I need a break. And so I think self-care is so important when working prom season, but I also think time management and not overbooking yourself is even more important. And if you are going to overbook, have enough sense to hire help. I can't express that enough. I have seen a shitload of designers, excuse my language, a load of designers overbook themselves, and then they, you know, start to complain about how much work it is and what needs to be done. And my thing is, if you are having, like, if you're in demand and your clients, you know, these people are wanting your services, that is amazing. However, we as independent designers have to be smart enough to know when to hire help. You cannot be selfish and keep all the money to yourself. It's working backwards. 100% working backwards. The whole purpose of us doing what we're doing is so that we can grow and expand. Now, if your ambitions for, you know, your business is something completely different, I understand. But at the same time, there's no way I'm going to take on 100 dresses and not hire help to do them. I don't care if I can do the 100 dresses myself or not. It is literally working backwards. And I really pray that you know, we break out of the sew for myself notion. Like, a lot of us, myself included, started sewing for ourselves because that's what we had to do. But I think that when God gives you an opportunity and he blesses you with demand and increase, be smart enough to increase the people around you so that you can not just take on 100 orders, but take on 200 orders. You understand what I'm saying? So going from overbook to being able to book more because you can handle the demand. And that's what I mean by that. This particular point is not to insult anybody who does, you know, who does 100 orders on their own. But I do think as, you know, designers, especially being independent designers, we have to know when to get out of our own way. And I think that this is what this particular point is about, being able to get out of your own way, you know, incorporating some self-care and some time management. Because I know for me, I don't want to be sewing, like, all the dresses I have to sew during prom season. I just don't want to do that. And that's why I'm always trying to hire help. I don't care. Last prom season, I had an associate just doing the mermaid bottoms, inserting horsehair, you know, putting feather boas on. Someone was just sewing appliques. There's so many ways that you can hire help. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have someone in there working hourly, but you can easily say to someone, I'll give you this much for this job. You know, I'll give you $15 or $30 for each mermaid bottom you complete with horsehair, or I'll give you $50 or $75 to sew the applique on to this dress. There's so many ways that you can pay people. You can pay them per piece, you can pay them per hour, or you can pay them off of commission. I mean, even having somebody to go out, hey, you go out to the high schools and you pass out flyers for me and I'll give you $50 off of each booking. There's so many ways that you can get people to help you to do your job. And I think as designers, we just have to figure out the best way to incorporate that help. I understand that if you are working for yourself, you do have expenses, but guess what? You can take on more work when you hire help. And that's really how I feel about it. When all of the work is dependent on you, it is very hard to manage your social media, manage your bookings, manage the sewing, manage the fabric sourcing and ordering. You have to do it all, and it's a lot. So in order to not do that, know when and where to outsource. Okay? It's so funny because my next point was taking on more than you can handle, but I think I really just summed that up. So a big, huge don't for me is do not take on more work that you can handle. Please do not take on more work that you can handle. I'm begging you. Please don't do that, because what you do is set yourself up to being criticized, to be, you know, made a meme, or unfortunately go viral. You know, this year specifically, there were so many posts about, you know, clients who were unsatisfied, clients who did not receive their orders, clients who just like literally got their dresses the day of their prom. And that absolutely baffles me. I want to be clear. I'm not judging you, but I'm definitely judging you, sis. We cannot keep doing business like this. We cannot keep doing. If we want these clients and customers to respect us as up and coming brands, regardless of if you started custom and you've gone into ready to wear, or if custom is your business, if you want to continue to be respected as a brand, you cannot be delivering your client's dress the same day of their prom. Now, some exceptions, they order a week before and you decide to take on an order and you tell them, you know, you're gonna have to pick this up Friday morning or Saturday morning. That's understandable. But anything outside of that, no, sis, we're not doing that. I don't care if it's a week before or 2 weeks before. And even that to me is considered last minute. We cannot continue to be dropping prom dresses off the day of prom. Like, the trust between you and your customer has went from here to here instantly. And I know for me, I do care about my business, I care about my brand, and I care about what's being said about me when I'm not in the room. So I think that we have to think about that, and just kind of lose the entitlement that like I'm the designer and you hired me to make your dress. It doesn't matter. They've paid you $800, $1,000, or whatever the price is, and it is your job and responsibility to deliver. So you guys, I definitely got to give y'all some tough love today. It is unacceptable, and if you are a designer that is delivering dresses the day before or whatever, you have to make a commitment to yourself to do better. Don't make a commitment to me. You got to make a commitment to yourself to do better, because that's how you eliminate going viral, being talked about, being blasted, all those things. Like, they are not good looks for your brand. And even when you do encounter a situation like that, you got to find a way to get in front of it. But the most important thing about it is you have to look at the teachable moments that your clients, like, all of these are teachable moments. Even when somebody blasts you, you know, I've gotten emails of people being unsatisfied before. We all go through it. But within those moments, you have to look at the teachable moments that are happening and just really say to yourself, as a brand, what can I learn from this moment? How to handle customer complaints and bashing. Now, I just talked about that a little bit in my previous point. However, I will say this. When a customer begins to complain and to bash you, you are the only person who can control the narrative. Now, don't get me wrong. Some customers, what I have realized in my experience is that some customers just will not be satisfied. It is absolutely nothing you can do about it. Sometimes you can offer them a refund. You can offer to give them a credit, 50% off their order. You can go above and beyond, kick through rocks, swim, cross the ocean, and some people just won't be satisfied. That's the name of the game. You can't please them all. That's my motto. You just can't win them all. However, when you do come into a case where you are being complained on or bashed via social media, the best way to do it is to try to get in front of it. That is going to be my best advice. You have to assess the situation, see where it is that you went wrong, and then you have to control the narrative. You have to take a PR standpoint from it, and I just think that it is in your best interest to try to, reach out to the customer, see how you can rectify the situation. But if it is a case of, you dropping a dress off a day before the prom or things of that nature, I think that you really just got to think about the best way you can do business going forward. And I think that, it's not in your best interest to be combative with the customer. Like, I don't send my goons to, everybody go right under their status and talk about how great of a person I am. You got yourself in a mess. You got to find a way to get yourself out. What I would do is just offer some type of remorse. I respond to my clients the same way I would want to be responded to if I have an issue. And the first thing I start off by saying is that I apologize that this has been your experience with my brand. However, if you allow me to provide some insight, I will be able to suggest how I can make things better going forward. Simple, sweet. You do what you got to do to make it right, because sometimes these viral posts, they go a very long way, and it's literally controlling the narrative from the time the post goes out all the way to it until it dies down. And I really hate, I hate for anybody to have to experience such a thing, but it's really real, and we have to get in front of those things. We can't run behind it, and we got to do what we got to do as designers and brands, especially if we want to be respected. My next don't is going to be, don't undercharge. I see so many people making this mistake, and at the end of prom season or at the end of the order, they feel like they have completely wasted their time. Please do not undercharge when you are quoting prices for these orders. If you don't feel qualified to do what you're doing, I do understand the trial and error of, maybe charging $600 to start because you are not that experienced, but you're capable of doing the job. I think that's another scenario. But I also think that when you undercharge, let's say your fabric is $350, and you've only made $150 or $200 off of an order that took you 12 to 48 hours to sew. I think that is absolutely insane, and I think we have to do better as designers. You have to come up with your price sheet. And if you are undercharging because you don't even understand how to charge, I think that it would be in your best interest to do a cost sheet and just kind of get to the bottom of what it is that you're going to pay yourself as a designer, what it is that you're spending on materials, notions, your labor fee. All of those things have to be accounted for when you decide to charge someone for the dresses. You may spend $300 on fabric, but your markup is only 100%. You get what I'm saying? You got to figure that out. But I think it is in your best interest to do a cost sheet or something of that nature, and you can even explain to your customers why the prices are what they are. If I am spending $300 or $400 on fabric, I have to make $500 or more off of this garment. Most people are understanding to that, some people are not, and that's why it is our job as designers to explain that to them. Furthermore, with undercharging, what I really hate to see with new and aspiring designers is them being afraid to charge, even when they have great work, because they're afraid that the customer is going to go elsewhere. I stand by the very firm thing that I said in the beginning of this video. If that is your experience with your customer, then that person is not your customer, because your customers are going to do whatever is required of them by you, and it's just that simple. So if you charge $750 for that gown or $1,000 for that gown, it is what it is. They're either going to pay it or they're not, and if they're not, don't dumb down your worth to accommodate their budget. It doesn't work like that, especially when you're going to be spending $450 on fabric. Usually if you're spending $450 just on fabric and notions, that dress has to be over $1,000. Has to be, or you're not making any money. And what you don't want to encounter is you spend so much time making this dress, and then you realize that you ain't made no money. You've literally not made any money. And anything that I do, especially custom, my ready to wear is different, but custom, I got to be able to pay at least 2 bills. That's my motto, and I stand firm on that. So stop undercharging yourselves. You are worth so much more, and you got to get more confidence within yourselves to do what you got to do, so that you can eventually go into this full time if you want to be able to pay your bills, without worrying about how you're going to make ends meet. That's my best advice for you. All right, so one don't, it's a do and a don't. This next do and don't is going to be about rush orders. Now, I covered rush orders a little bit in the beginning of the video, but I'm just going to say this. Do not take on rush orders if you cannot do the work. And it's just really that simple. I understand that the money is good and all those things, but if you take on a rush order and you cannot deliver, you are just signing yourself up to be the next social media frenzy. So I would not suggest doing rush orders unless you have the skills and you are capable of delivering exactly what needs to be done. So I have 2 remaining points. The next one is, do not allow your customers to purchase fabric. This is something that I have seen many of times, and I think that one, it is your job as the designer to source your fabric. I don't think it's in your best interest to have your customers to go and to purchase the fabric. One, they get to see the price of the fabric, and some people can say, well, the fabric is $14. Why are you charging me $500? You know what I mean? Like, I just think you're putting yourself in a situation that you, one, don't need to be in, and two, nobody's gonna tell me what I should be charging and what I'm worth. And so I don't even go into the back and forth. As a designer, I like to do the work. I know what's best for the garment. I know it's going to look good. And it's really hard trying to explain to someone you need some white punty knit. What kind of punty? You know what I mean? Like, it's just a lot. So I think that that is a big negative for me that I have seen a lot. And a huge don't. Do not allow your customers to purchase fabric. Please don't. It's not worth it. It's just not. My very, very, very last point and very important point is, continue to be a student through this process. Now, I know I could go on and on. I might do a prom do's and don'ts part 2, but my most important thing that I want to tell you guys to just close out on a positive note is to continue to be a student, continue to learn, continue to increase your skill, continue to grow, challenge yourself. Don't be afraid to do the hard stuff. Don't be afraid to do the things that are time consuming. Do not shortcut. You have to stop shortcutting the work. Now, if it's something that you do well and you can get done in a timely manner, do what you got to do. You know, I have my own shortcuts as well. But I think it's so important for us to be students and to continue to learn and grow. I've been sewing for over 10 years and there are still things that I don't know how to do. There are still things that I am learning how to do better. And I think that it is important during the off season that you continue to do your research, continue to work on those patterns for prom so that when prom comes, you've already had experience with a bustier top, you know, just all those highly requested silhouettes you've had experience with. It is so important. Do not be afraid to learn different techniques. Do not be afraid to go the extra mile, not just for your customer, but for your brand. I know for me, sometimes I have clients that come in and they are bringing me work that I've never done before, but I've already did the homework needed to be able to take on this job. And now I know that I'm capable of doing so. And I just think that's so important. So if you leave with nothing else from this video, just remember that prom season is full of a lot of trial and error. However, you do not have to make the same mistakes that many of us have made. I want to be clear. This video is coming from someone who has personally made some of the very same mistakes. You don't have to make those. Just take into consideration some of the things that I'm saying. And if you are in different sewing groups like I am, I'm sure you will find several posts, several things just basically co-signing some of the things that I've said. We've been there. We've all made those mistakes. If you have had some very negative experiences from what I'm discussing this year, I want you to just think about, use it as a teachable moment and think about what you can do better next year. You guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you stay humble, stay hungry, and stay blessed. And until next time, I'll see you in the next video.